Naimeng belly black vest little fairy versus dark crazy criticism of proud demon king, Shuangjie, vest, Shura field, Xuanxue, brain cave. Disdained by the godly master, he refused to throw a penny down the mountain. Just as he was about to pick up his old colleague, he was told that it was the real daughter left by the Ning family. My biological parents favored the fake daughter and said, Yao Yao has been pampered by the Ning family since childhood, and her body is weak. Unlike you, who have been accustomed to the scorching heat and cold on the barren hills. The elder brother of the same lineage defended the fake sister and said, Yao Yao is my younger sister. What are you? Lifting her shoes would be a high regard for you. It is rumored that Xuanxue did not even graduate from primary school and was obsessed with having unnecessary celebrity dreams. He also learned how to set up stalls and pretend to be a god, fight, and can be said to be an all-rounder. Until all the big shots from all walks of life swarmed and competed for her guidance. Netizens suddenly woke up and raised the banner of forgiveness. However, a crazy group of big shots rushed to take the oath and said, Madam, you have a vast wealth, and you can indulge it. Online. Big shots worship. She knows how to wield a long spear, how to sing and dance with birds and swallows, and how to use spiritual pills and poison. When the real gun was fired at, she sent the opponent a wave of cannons, which were deafening to the ear. One day, when those bloodthirsty red eyes appeared, a pair of big hands pulled her towards the bend of her arms and gently said, Good, let's go home. Chapter 1. The Return of a True Daughter. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. On a snowy night, who has been captivated by the soul again? With a pen, I wish you eternal peace. Yangcheng in January. The howling strong wind made people feel pain. Chi, a black luxury car is parked outside the luxurious European-style villa in Jinyuhaoyuan. The door on one side of the luxury car opened and two people, a man and a woman, came down one after another. A handsome man wearing the latest high-end suit from the Du family, with spotless pants and big strides, his face filled with impatience, and his noble eyes filled with disdain. On the other hand, the girls who came down later appeared very shabby. On the wide gray-black workwear pants, there was a white hoodie stained with dust, and the backpack on the body was washed white. The whole body, from head to toe, and even the retro backpack combined, is probably less than 100. Full of worthless cheap feeling. Completely relying on that decent face to hold on. Unfortunately, even her fair cheeks were stained with a lot of dust. A girl with a fair complexion can get off a luxury car that she can never afford in her lifetime, despite being so shabby. The reporters who had been waiting outside the Ning family's door for a long time were instantly energized when they saw someone getting off the car. All the bees rushed forward, blocking the entrance of the Ning family. One by one, they held their microphones high, and the photographers were also unwilling to be outdone, making several clicks without gaps. Ning Shao, may I ask if this is the true daughter of the Ning family? It is said that this girl is Ning Shao's biological sister. Is this matter serious? May I ask Ning Shao, which slum did this true daughter come from? Hello Miss Xuanxue, you have become a master in one fell swoop. May I ask how you feel now? Miss, may I ask if Princess Ning wants to make way for you? Ning Shao, can Princess Ning still receive special favor in the Ning family? Is Princess Ning's name to be given over to the virtuous? As the head of the wealthy family in Yangcheng, the Ning family has some connections with the Shui family in the imperial capital. The pearl of the Ning family, Ning Yao Yao, is also a new rising star in the entertainment industry, and has always received media attention. Furthermore, it has recently been reported that Ning Yao Yao is not the daughter of the Ning family. It sounds good to say that a child star debuted, but has long been in the 18th tier, and scumbag actor Xuanxue is the one. This Xuanxue, according to their investigation, came out of Shanghai. When she was a child setting up a stall, she was pulled to perform several group performances. Later on, Cha Fan didn't want to dream of becoming a celebrity, but he didn't want to endure hardship and would only stare blankly. The daughter of the Ning family, who has been raised for more than 20 years, is not biological. The only one born is a small transparent wild girl who lives in a slum and only knows how to daydream. According to rumors, it is said that the package was swapped and held incorrectly, and there are also claims that it was originally twins. I was misdiagnosed by the doctors in the small town and mistook it for a dead baby, but there are rumors no matter what. This matter has attracted great attention from all over Yangqing. After all, this is the news of the leader of Yangqing's wealthy family. It's a once-in-a-lifetime big news. However, this news went on for a few days without any response from the Ning family. Smelling that there was going to be big news, they had no choice but to squat outside the gate of the Ning family. I have been squatting for several days, and finally, the emperor has fulfilled his duty by squatting at the Ning family to pick up the true daughter of the Ning family. Su Mianmian. At present, sharp journalists are raising one question after another, all revolving around the topic of true and false wealth. Ning Jiayang paused in his footsteps, looked at the camera with a heavy expression, and finally landed on the girl who was directly targeted by the camera. Princess Ning of the Ning family, only Yao Yao, as for the others. Hiss, she said coldly after speaking. The man quickened his pace. The bodyguards saw the situation and quickly dispersed the incoming reporters. Just as he was about to enter the door, Ning Shuyang saw a poor girl behind him, surrounded by reporters. Thinking that when we first met, she was still grabbing things with him like a poor child, and couldn't help but feel a hint of annoyance in her eyes. I gave a glance to a few bodyguards. Impatiently, he said, "What are you doing standing up for? Who are you fooling around with? Do you really consider yourself a big star?" Su Mianmian's drooping eyes traced a strange thread, hooked her beautiful lips, and with her hands in her shirt pockets, she walked towards the entrance of the Ning family on the path opened by the bodyguard. A leisurely pace. Let Ning Jiayang, who is angry, have a good meal. Watching the protagonist of the Ning family enter the Ning family gate today, an inconspicuous man with sunglasses in the crowd tightened his camera in his hand. Quietly squeezing out the crowd, sitting in the car satisfied with the photo in hand, organizing it for a while before sending it out. Qingfeng Mountain. Junlang youth looked into the distance with a gloomy expression, while the old man wearing a Taoist robe beside him touched his white beard. Everything is on track now. Master, are you not afraid of your senior sister's anger? She, who's angry about her? She's already a person of great wealth and status. She shouldn't have nestled in this mountain ditch. Master, I also want to go out. The old man tilted his head and said, "Do you want to go?" "Sure." The young man's eyes lit up and he urgently turned around to go down the mountain, but in the end, "Master, you should unravel the formation." "The formation is not unraveled, how can he go down the mountain?" "I don't know if his technique is the worst. If you want to go down the mountain, it's not impossible. At least you can collect the things." Youth. Can he not use this hot potato? But if you want to go down the mountain, that's all you can do. I hope senior sister doesn't blame me. Huayu Mansion. The gentle breeze by the natural lake brushes against his face, and the man holding a Buddha bead is sitting in a smart wheelchair, only about 20.5 years old. With a pair of exquisitely crafted facial features, clear lines and skin as white as grease, a pair of bewitching phoenix eyes slightly raised, with black eyes that clearly swayed and seductive. The red mole on the tail of the eye is lightly spotted, exuding a strange charm. A pair of long legs casually overlapping together, sitting in a lazy and leisurely posture, showcasing an endless sense of luxury. But this beautiful man was shrouded in a gloomy mist. However, even so, it is still advisable for a man to hold a long hook without bait in his slender hand. The cold and curly air makes people itch. Hua Mingqing watched his little uncle leisurely fishing without caring about himself. Anxious to the point of confusion, "Uncle, it's going to be a storm outside. Why are you indifferent? Aren't you curious? You. Xuanxue felt that the fish were swimming recklessly underwater, but in a blink, they were nowhere to be seen. Shoo. The fish were scared away by you, he said softly, a deep voice, like smoke and painting, exuding an endless chill. That indifferent voice that repels people thousands of miles away. Like the flowers of the high mountains, they are unattainable. Ah, but. That's the person who wants to be his little ant. Here we go. A voice interrupted. Xuanxue flipped over the latest tablet and took a shortcut over the precious flower garden, excitedly running in. Yen Gu, if you don't go and look, I'll have someone take a photo. Look, this little sister. Law is not bad, he said as he reached out his hand. Let me see, let me see. Huamingqing pushed aside Xuanxue, who had a strong physique, and vigorously poked his head to look. The girl on the screen is cute and creamy, with a hint of loneliness. One word. Soft. The soft and adorable person and spirit are mutually angry, and the milky and fair little face makes people unable to resist wanting to pinch it. Milk is so sweet. Huamingqing looked at the photo excitedly. That's my dear aunt. Isn't it pretty? Xuanxue chuckled and handed the tablet to Xuanxue's hand. Shao Bai has taken off the dust on his face. Not to mention, his appearance is a few blocks higher than that of Ning Yao Yao. It's just a slap in the face, he said proudly. Xuanxue still held the fishing rod in his hand, but raised his eyes slightly. Feng's eyes casually scanned the screen. The overlapping legs changed for a moment, and the body leaned back. With a lack of interest, he spoke, it's too naughty, not suitable. Huamingqing and Xuanxue glanced at each other and coincidentally twitched their lips. Be obedient. There are rumors that but Xiao Bai's technique indeed okay, there's nothing to say. Take a picture of a notorious person here, portraying a well-behaved and obedient woman like Noa Noa. Chapter 2. There are so many hearts and minds. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. The villa area of Yangqing Jinyu Mansion can be said to be every inch of land, every inch of gold. The value of each building is above tens of millions. The people living inside are mostly wealthy and powerful, and there are also some celebrities from the entertainment industry around, who are willing to spend a lot of money to rent here. As for the meaning, it varies from person to person. As the leader of the wealthy families in Yangqing, the Ning family naturally enjoys the best geographical location. The value of housing prices is also a presence that cannot be ignored by the surrounding areas. It's not just a level of 10 million. After all, from the precious flower beds in the courtyard, the tens of millions of artificial landscape fountains, to the rare crystal chandeliers inside the house, as well as the exquisite and luxurious decoration, the various famous paintings hanging on the walls display nobility and luxury everywhere. Ning Jiayang stood in the hall, watching the girls looking around all the way. With a deep expression, he warned, as the leader of the wealthy Yangqing family, every move of the Ning family is highly regarded by outsiders. It's best for you to know some propriety when it comes to what you can and cannot do. It's best not to let me see what happened today again, don't think you're still in that dirty place. Also, don't answer everything you ask. Remember it for me. Su Mianmian lifted her dusty little face, and a faint smile revealed innocent obedience. Noa Noa said, brother, what can and cannot be done? Also, if someone asks a question and doesn't answer, isn't it impolite? The agile eyes flickered, and the bewildered eyes made it impossible to lift any anger. You. Ning Jiayang was speechless for a moment, looking at the soft and sticky girl. He couldn't help but furrow his brow. If someone asks, they just don't know for a moment. After taking another step and pausing, he said, by the way, you also need to remember that even if I pick you up, I only have Yao Yao as my sister. It's best not to have any inappropriate thoughts. Su Mianmian lowered her eyebrows and whispered, then I'll go. The rebellious and black bellies that appeared under the eyes were accompanied by a lot of resentment, with a soft tone mixed with an imperceptible coolness. It makes people feel restless when they listen, and if they originally wanted to argue, they were all suppressed and unsure whether to say it or not. What else did Ning Jiayan want to say? But was interrupted by a sound coming from the rotating staircase. A well-maintained woman exclaimed, "Is it so smooth?" Before Su Mianmian could raise her eyebrows to look, she was surrounded and embraced by someone, and the woman suddenly burst into tears. "My poor daughter. It's all my mother's fault that has caused you so many years of suffering. Fortunately, God has eyes and allowed you to return home safely." After the death of her parents at the age of 10, Su Mianmian was sold to mountain valleys by human traffickers. Unexpectedly, in less than a day, the family almost died inexplicably. Su Mianmian, who had nowhere to go, heard that he had been picked up by the god who was chattering in the deep mountains. Learned the ability to deceive people. As for these 10 years, Su Mianmian has been living aimlessly, occasionally wandering in the film and television industry. What kind of name do you want to come out with that face? And no one knows. At this time, Su Mianmian is not considered the original Su Mianmian. Currently, Su Mianmian is also puzzled. I don't know what kind of unjust behavior she did, but she was thrown down the mountain by the godly master who always treated her well. Leave her by the roadside without giving her a penny. Su Mianmian, penniless, found the familiar small bungalow through her hazy dream memories. Looking at a decent house, I thought to myself to set up a stall and earn some money from meals, so I wouldn't starve to death. Suddenly, I had a headache and fainted. After losing consciousness completely, Su Mianmian was unconscious in the empty room for 2 whole days. Su Mianmian woke up and looked at the familiar scene in front of her. She shook her head helplessly. After a rough analysis, she is currently in a state of 3 separate souls merging into one. Ben is still dizzy and has not yet adapted to this complex matter. But someone who suddenly arrived said that she was the daughter of the top wealthy family in Yangcheng. At this point, I originally intended to exclude Ning Yao Yao from the Ning family bloodline. Song Linmin, who was buried deep in his heart, couldn't help but think of his true bloodline left behind after that incident. Just this idea was just a thought, but unexpectedly someone brought a mysterious letter on the same day. Tell them where their biological daughter is located. This matter is somewhat mysterious. But she couldn't bear to think too much. After all, due to the current situation. In fact, a few years ago, Song Linmin knew that Ning Yao Yao was not her child. But when I think of years of hard work, she is ultimately unwilling in her heart. Fortunately, they still have a way out. Su Mianmian frowned and struggled uneasily, saying, "Don't tease me." Song Linmin quickly let go of his hand, his eyes flushed, and he looked up and down at his own blood and daughter. "Sorry, Mom is too excited. Let's take a good look at her. My poor child, after all these years of suffering, you have come back home now and are not afraid of anything." Song Linmin cried uncontrollably, while Su Mianmian's face showed no signs of splashing. For Su Mianmian, family affection seems a bit elusive. Ning Haolong rushed back after handling the company's affairs and looked at the young girl in front of his wife, her eyes red with joy. Everything turned into, "I'm home, my daughter's home." Su Mianmian looked at a middle-aged man in his 40s and 50s, with a straight suit and a dignified demeanor. "Dad. Mom." Behind the 3 of them, a soft and warm female voice came, breaking the warm scene at this moment. The girl is wearing a fitted long dress, which is the latest haute couture style of do. Her black hair is half tucked away, and her overall demeanor is even more dignified than that of a typical lady. Unlike girls of her age who usually enjoy playing. Ning Yao Yao is a well-known noble woman in the upper-class circle of Yangcheng, with extraordinary nobility when she raises her hand. But the existence that can be compared to the noble women of the imperial capital. Ning Yao Yao's dim gaze swept over Su Mianmian's small face, and a fierce force flashed through her eyes in an instant. The jealousy in my eyes fleeted. Transformed into a low and smooth face, with beautiful eyes slightly turning red. Mom and Dad, your biological daughter has returned, and I should also leave. In an instant. The hearts of the Ning family were filled with excitement. Ning Jiayang frowned and said quickly, Yao Yao, what nonsense are you talking about? Song Linmin was taken aback and quickly released his hand holding Su Mianmian, walking towards Ning Yao Yao, who was not in a high mood. Covering Ning Yao Yao's cheeks with heartache, she wiped away the tears left on her face. Silly child, why are you leaving? Ning Yao Yao's gaze fell on Su Mianmian, biting her pink lips and then looking at the woman in front of her, her sour eyes drooping. But I'm just unnecessary here. This is no longer my home. Ning Jiayang muttered secretly, the excess is Su Mianmian. He doesn't like Su Mianmian's carefree appearance anywhere now, he doesn't want such a sister at all. Say nothing unnecessary, this will always be your home. Song Linmin frowned and glanced at Ning Shuyang. Turning around to look at Su Mianmian halfway, she even exchanged a glance with her husband Ning Haolong. Song Linmin spoke with a tone of discussion yet determination. Dao said, Mian, Yao Yao can also be considered to have grown up in this family. Her biological parents have long gone to the west, and she is used to taking care of herself. If she were to leave here, she might. In addition, she entered the entertainment industry a year ago, so she definitely has a great future ahead. If someone with a heart finds out that she is not the daughter of the Ning family, it will definitely have a great impact. Song Linmin's face was full of sorrow, and after a pause, he continued. So we call you twins to the public. When you gave birth in a small town, the doctor's negligence caused you to be stranded for many years. Mian, you shouldn't mind having multiple sisters, right? Ning Haolong held his wife's trembling shoulder. With a guilty expression on his face, he said, Mian, after all these years of suffering, your parents are ashamed of you. You are a sensible child, and I hope you can understand, Yao Yao. After waiting for them to say something dry, Su Mianmian slowly said something cool. Mind, understand, there's still some diaphragm response. Chapter 3. There is self-awareness here. You are listening at novel full.audio. Upon hearing this, the four of them were at a loss for how to respond. The scene suddenly became cold and elegant. Ning Jiayang, who couldn't hold his breath anymore, roared angrily, Su Mianmian, I gave you face, right? Why do you mind? You still have some self-awareness. Before picking up someone, they checked Su Mianmian thoroughly. That foster parents are just the lowly people who parasitize at the bottom of Yangqing, living in a cracked bungalow. The adoptive father was a simple and honest person who provided a guarantee for his friend, but he ran away and left everything to Su's father. When Su Mianmian was 4 years old and was chased by creditors, he had a car accident and instead died. He was paralyzed in bed. The debt combined with exorbitant medical expenses made the already impoverished family even worse. Fortunately, her adoptive mother was sensible and did not let Su Mianmian drop out of school. No matter how poor her family was, she could afford to study. Su Mianmian has been very lively since she was young. Once, she followed Su's mother to sell flowers on the street and was discovered by a talent scout. From then on, she entered the entertainment industry. In my spare time, I can work part-time to earn some money. I thought life would be easier now, and all hardships would eventually pass. But ultimately, he was a child under 10 years old and a heavily indebted woman who was blinded by small interests and signed an unequal treaty with the company. I had no choice but to drop out of school and become a child star. Su's father, who was paralyzed in bed, was in a bad mood. When he became angry, he let go and left with few people. Su's mother also became depressed, and in the end, she didn't have the heart to care about Su Mianmian. Su Mianmian had no connections or acting skills in the circle and was quickly forgotten. But the company is burdened with unequal contracts, and the high-interest loans that are owed are rolling profits. The number of debt collectors has increased from 3 times a week to 2 times a day. She also said she wanted to take Su Mianmian away, but Su's mother fought hard to protect her. As she was pushing and shoving, Su's mother was hit in the head. From then on, 10-year-old Su Mianmian became an orphan. The creditor saw the situation and secretly tied up Su Mianmian, selling her to human traffickers. After several transfers, he entered the mountain village. It said that the family almost died on the 4th day of Su Mianmian's arrival. There is only one child left who is under 1 month old. Su Mianmian grew up with the child, eating from 100 families in the village. So Ning Jiague, as a prestigious family, has such an unbearable bloodline, which can be said to be a great shame. Su Mianmian's eyes remained unchanged as she said with a forlorn expression, "What kind of self-awareness? Isn't this my home? So why are you coming back to me?" The atmosphere suddenly became a bit cold. Ning Haolong looked at Su Mianmian's estranged expression and quickly said, "Mianmian, this is your home. You must be coming back." Ning Yao Yao's eyes flashed a hint of coolness, and her slightly red eyes drooped with a mournful expression. Dao said, "Brother. Sister is the child of this family. I am an outsider. Don't be angry with sister." "Oh, there's self-awareness here," Su Mianmian raised her phoenix eyes. Ning Jiayang looked at Ning Yao Yao with red eyes. Shouting loudly at Su Mianmian, "What do you mean? Don't think you're keeping the blood of the Ning family, just making progress here. It's not like. Jiayang, how could you talk to your younger sister like that?" Song Linman's face stiffened slightly as he tried to smooth things out. Mian, don't think too much about what brother said." Seeing the scene ease for a moment, I quickly changed the topic. "Come on, Mom will take you to see your room." As Song Linman spoke, he took the girl's hand and led her up to the 3rd floor. Ning Yao Yao looked at the 2 figures leaving, and from an angle that others couldn't see, the slightly curved corners of her lips showed a hint of malice. "Haha. Don't try to take her place." Su Mianmian felt the warmth in her hands and followed her step all the way to the end of the 3rd floor. Watching the woman open the door with a joyful expression on her face. Mian, the time is rushed and I didn't have time to prepare a room for you. Please stay here temporarily." Song Linman lightly covered his nose and said, "After a while, I will discuss with your father how to merge and renovate your sister's dance studio, art studio, and other rooms. I'll make a brighter room for you, Mian. You can stay well when you go home. Don't think about anything else, Mom will arrange everything for you." "Alright, take a look, what do you want to add?" "Dinner will be served at 6 p.m. tonight." Su Mianmian looked at the closed door. Scan around the eyes. TSK. What a last-minute move. The northwest sloping debris room is so small that it can't even fit a decent bed. I reluctantly placed a thick cushion on the ground, about less than 1.2 meters wide. However, those who are still strong enough know that it is too monotonous, and they also know how to set up a set of tables and chairs, and set up a small shelf. Su Mianmian looked at the narrower room than her slum. Curled the corners of my lips. "Do you want to add a bed? Maybe there isn't enough space here." Looking through the small breathable window on the slope, watching the slowly falling sunlight. Feeling the wind blowing from the northwest. Without time, the fingertips in my pocket became icy cold. "Gulu." Su Mianmian touched her hungry belly. "Dinner starts at 6 o'clock. I should be able to be on time. Isn't it like that place? This body has been hungry for 3 days. It was already weak and uncontrollable." At 6:15. Ning Jiayang took a last-minute phone call and went out to make an appointment. So there are only 4 people on the dining table. Without the irritable Ning Jiayang, the scene seemed harmonious in the blink of an eye. Su Mianmian raised her eyebrows slightly and looked at the braised pork leg in brown sauce, sweet and sour chops, and seafood chowder on the table. Picking up chopsticks, he was full and picked up a whole bowl. Without lifting their heads, they indulged in a feast with a slightly heroic expression, causing the three people across from them to twitch slightly. Song Linmin's face stiffened slightly as he looked at Su Mianmian. There is not a trace of a lady from a wealthy family, she is not even as beautiful as Yao Yao. Despite all the disgust in my heart, my face showed a look of heartache. It's continuous and not urgent, there's something to eat and something to eat. Ning Yao Yao's eyes were filled with coldness, as if she were a poor and destitute person in a mouse's nest. Her eating behavior was simply unbearable. Ning Haolong looked at Su Mianmian with a worried expression on his face. This child has suffered so much over the years. Don't think too much, it's definitely not enough to eat. Look at this skinny guy, he doesn't look like a 20-year-old child. I couldn't help but add a few pieces of meat to Su Mianmian's bowl and say, "Child, eat slowly, don't worry, I like it. Let Aunt Song cook it for you every day." Although Su Mianmian sandwiched a large bowl, her eating method was not at all indecent. Neither wolfing it down nor being pretentious. It makes people feel like they are eating some earthly delicacy. But Song Linmin doesn't think so. Compared to her well-behaved Yao Yao, it's like heaven and earth. There is not a trace of a lady from a wealthy family. Watching her husband's affectionate expression, the foot under the table couldn't help but kick. After taking a sip of the soup, Song Linmin casually spoke up, Mian, returning to the Ning family is the daughter of the Ning family. This is a very particular way of speaking and acting, and we can't carry our old habits anymore. Ning Haolong frowned and interjected, yes, Mian. There are some bad habits that need to be changed. If you don't know, you can ask Yao Yao to teach you. Oh, Su Mianmian responded indifferently. Ning Yao Yao raised her eyebrows slightly and looked at her mother, who had a slightly displeased expression in her eyes. She lowered her head and took a small bite to eat. Song Linmin looked at Su Mianmian's expression and casually mentioned, "You child, learn from Yao Yao well, otherwise how will you get married in the future? By the way, you've had a marriage since you were young." Song Linmin smiled gently and even gave Su Mianmian a piece of pork ribs. Chapter 4. Marriage. What are the benefits? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Song Linmin saw that Su Mianmian was only focused on eating and didn't make a sound. He took advantage of the heat and said, "This is still a great deal that your grandfather made for you before you were born. Speaking of which, that child's current value is quite high. According to your aunt who married into the Xue family, the family in the imperial capital is a wealthy family. That child is also good looking, but has a somewhat dull personality and is not very talkative. Not long ago, when I returned to my old house, the old man even mentioned that the family asked when to handle things. That's not right, Mianmian, you're going home. This should be on the agenda now. Marry someone." Su Mian's rolling phoenix eyes lifted, looking thoughtful. "That's right." Song Linmin saw Su Mianmian's response and quickly said, "Mianmian, don't worry. At this time, my family is much better than the Ning family. You will never be wronged when you marry." Ning Haolong thought of the serious words on the old man's face when he returned to his old house. Following his wife's words, he said, Mian, when you just returned home, your parents couldn't bear to let you get married, but the marriage with the Shi family is indeed a good thing. After all, how many people want to marry the crown prince of the imperial capital? So good, why not give it to her? Su Mianmian gestured towards Ning Yao Yao with her chin. Song Linmin was taken aback and said, "After all, this is just a matter of marriage. But you didn't say we were twins to the public." Su Mianmian's face showed a hint of doubt. After a pause, he said, "And such a good thing, why not let her, who has enjoyed her status as a daughter for 20 years, go. If she remembers correctly. This imperial capital is a family, but it is a top-tier wealthy family. How could the Ning family have given her such a daughter who had just returned home and married them off? There must be some tricks involved in this. Ning Haolong's face became much uglier for a moment. Originally, after Yao Yao's 18th birthday, they started preparing for the wedding, and they were delighted to hear about it. As a result, there was a situation at home. Then it was delayed. They still asked the sister who had married to the Xue family in the imperial capital to inquire, only to find out that the child had been paralyzed in both legs due to an accident. I also heard that for the rest of my life, I'm afraid I'll have to use a wheelchair. This is not appropriate, it's useless. Where is the Xue family? How could a disabled person become the head of the family and definitely lose their inheritance rights? Moreover, after this paralysis, one's temperament also underwent a major change. A year ago, I heard from that aunt that the child was seriously ill and probably won't live for a few days. Everyone knows this obvious situation, how could they still let Yao Yao marry? If it's okay to be paralyzed, you may soon become widowed. The Yao Yao had no choice but to marry into a noble family and become the legitimate head of the family. How can one marry a useless person who is not yet alive? But the old man has already given a death order. If they cannot marry someone in 3 months, they will never be eligible to inherit his estate. If the inheritance rights are given to the second person, their future discourse power in the company will not be high. I couldn't help but think of my biological daughter who was wandering outside. Marrying this woman can be said to be a win-win situation. Firstly, the inheritance right has not been lost, and secondly, it is difficult for the family to say anything at that time. After all, this was just a matter of marriage. Mian, this marriage is already yours. How could we give it to your sister? Ning Haolong looked embarrassed. Besides, at this point, the family knows the truth. If we still marry Yao Yao over. Mian, even mom and dad can't bear to part with you. You just came back, so you have to. Song Linmin's eyes were slightly red, but we really can't afford to offend the family at that time. Su Mianmian flipped the chopsticks in her hand and placed them on the table, neither light nor heavy. Her pitch-black eyes looked at Ning Yao Yao, who remained silent. A cool and thin voice murmured, so. Just to get me married for her. Be careful not to be exposed. The faces of Ning Haolong and Song Linmin both became extremely stiff as expected. Ning Yao Yao's half-narrowed eyes were filled with strange emotions. No longer silent. Sister, you misunderstood my parents. When I'm going to debut, my first requirement is to be single, otherwise I won't delay getting married for 2 years. Although there are some issues with the Xue family. Su Mianmian sneered, what are the benefits of me getting married for you? Ning Yao Yao raised a decent smile and said, how could this be the saying of marrying on behalf of me? This is already my sister's marriage, and I have been occupied by it for so many years. It's fortunate that I didn't get married, otherwise I would be a big bad person who stole my sister's marriage. Do you also know that it has been occupied for so many years? Sister, I. Ning Yao Yao's throat paused, and a hint of abnormality flashed through her eyes. Song Linmin loosened his grip and quickly smiled, Mian, there are many benefits to it. After marrying, you will become a young lady, enjoying endless wealth and status. As for relationships, they can also be gradually cultivated. Su Mianmian nodded and breathed a sigh as she listened, let's talk more. I'm full now. Without any emotion, he stood up and walked upstairs. Ning Yao Yao looked at Su Mianmian's back, and a dark and ferocious expression flashed through her eyes. At the party at the beginning of the year, she heard what their aunt, who had married into the Xue family, said. I was still looking forward to marrying her, who was a heavy inkstone, but it completely interrupted that thought. How could she marry a useless person? A mist appeared in his eyes, Mom. Sister. Yao Yao, don't think too much. Mom knows that your career is important now, so she respects your choice, Song Linman said, serving Ning Yao Yao a bowl of bird's nest that Aunt Song had just brought to the table. Yao Yao, this is specially cooked for you to eat to replenish your complexion. Aren't you going to audition tomorrow? Thank you, Mom. Ning Yao Yao took the bowl and gave it a small peck. It's really delicious. Do you want to bring some for your sister? No need, Song Linman said without hesitation, giving her such lavish food is simply a waste. But my sister. Song Linman looked at the child who was so considerate of Su Mianmian, and then thought of the attitude of his biological daughter. Yao Yao, no matter what, you are my mother's daughter. I won't treat you unfairly just because she comes back. What my mother can give you will only be better than her. In the future, finding a husband's family for you will also be better than the Sure families. Upon hearing this, Ning Yao Yao choked up and said, Mom, if I don't get married, I'll be with you. You silly child, Song Linman gave a gentle smile that reached his eyes. Turning his head, he gave another command to his silent husband. When Jiayang comes back, you want him to focus less on Mian for me. That child has a good temperament, so don't get angry and run away, otherwise it will be difficult for the old man to explain. Okay, I know. Ning Haolong nodded. The slightly furrowed eyebrows never parted too much, but the wife spoke up, and the old man's arrangement could only be like this. Sai Ning Yao Yao's drooping face was tinged with pride. Su Mianmian, what if you're bleeding from the Ning family? Not yet to be stepped on by her. A wild girl, also worthy of arguing with her. Being able to marry into that place at home can be considered a bargain for you. Su Mianmian leaned against the wall at the corner, silently sneering, listening to the joyful laughter. He took a step and walked upstairs. After washing up, wiping his long hair, he returned to the room at the end. Sitting on the chair with a bored expression, playing with the phone in hand. Suddenly, a bell rang. Su Mianmian looked at the unfamiliar number on the screen. I clicked to answer. Sister. A young and familiar voice came over. Su Mianmian was slightly taken aback, took her phone a bit further away, and then glanced at the unfamiliar number. What about Master? Ah. There was a moment of silence on the other end of the phone. I'll hang up without saying it. Tell me, Master, if you go once a day, you will know everything. The child on the other end of the phone quickly said, afraid that the person across from him would be unhappy, so he blocked his phone. Chapter 5. The Divine Doctor's ghost hand was bullied by someone. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Oh. Is that? Sister. Ning's family okay? Su Mianmian listened to the worried tone of the little boy. It's okay, said softly. Shouldn't they be happy to retrieve their biological daughter? How can I listen to my sister's words? It doesn't seem to be very high. Although my sister has always been in a cold mood. Xuanxue blinked his eyes and thought of the group of people who appeared in the slums in the afternoon. Sister, a group of people came in the afternoon and surrounded the entire slum, as if looking for a miracle doctor. Fortunately, the Ning family picked you up in the morning, he said. Su Mianmian placed her phone on the desktop and with a light, there was no more text left. Wiping my long hair on my own. Xuanxue saw that there was no sound on the other end of the phone again and said, Sister, when you go back to the Ning family, you won't forget me, will you? After all, I was also raised by you, so I have to provide you with elderly care, otherwise you will be in trouble. Su Mianmian smiled and said, the loser is talking about you. Did Master's old savings slip away? Xuanxue pursed his lips and said, Master is cunning and cunning, he is very cunning. Huayu Mansion. By the natural lake, the man stayed by the lake for almost a day, but the bucket next to the wheelchair was still empty. The schools of fish in the lake come and go back and forth. No matter how difficult it is, you can still catch one, but there is a flat hook placed on the other end of the fishing rod, which is still the kind without bait. How foolish should that fish be, and how hard they can't think of it. Only then will they take the bait themselves. Yun Fuyu frowned and said, Yen Gu, can you take care of your own body? Shi Yan lowered his head but did not lift it. His cold and thin lips moved slightly, and his voice was tinged with a hint of coldness. I won't go see the king of hell for a while. How have you been looking for him? Yun Fuyu took a thin blanket from someone else and covered it on Shi Yanchen's leg. Shaking his head, he said, we're just 3 feet away from digging the ground. Yun Fuyu was born into a medical family, and his father was a closed-door disciple of Mr. Yun, who is now the deputy director of the medical bureau. He is in charge of the entire medical channels in China, and he has been exposed to it since childhood. Following Mr. Yun's footsteps, he self-taught good medical skills and joined the International Medical Association at a young age. He was only 22 years old when he became the director of the Hua district. Compared to his father, there is nothing inferior. But 2 years ago, he voluntarily resigned from his position as a director and became Shi Yanchen's family doctor. After following Shi Yanchen for 2 years, this leg was saved, but there are still toxins remaining in the body. He can only delay the spread of toxins. But the longer it drags on, the greater the danger, and the situation is getting worse day by day. At present, only the legendary divine doctor and ghostly hand can hang Yan Ji's life for more than 10 years. Even if it's only 1 year, they still want to find the ghost hand. Ghost hands, no one knows whether they are male or female, they are always scarce. 8 years ago, we worked together to quell the post-war plague in the Northwest. 5 years ago, the biochemical crisis in South Africa was resolved, leading to the spread of the virus. 4 years ago, President Euler, whose life was hanging on the line, was saved by the infatuated ghost hand's 7 needles. It is not surprising that there is such a needle technique that can bring people back to life, which can be said to be that Hua Tuo is still alive. It is not surprising to say that such a divine person is the world's #1 divine doctor. But it's just a person who passed it on like this, but doesn't know exactly where she came from. President Euler, who has always been anti-China, personally and spontaneously signed a long-term friendship agreement with China after recovering from a serious illness. Some people speculate that this divine dragon, which has no head or tail, comes from a Chinese person. However, it has never been proven by anyone. However, these miraculous doctors and ghostly hands that have been absent for almost 4 years. But a week ago, appearing in a first-tier city like Yangqing in China, it is still in the westernmost slums of Yangqing. They, who had been checking the movements of the ghostly hands, also arrived as soon as possible. But the other party's trace disappeared again. However, it should still be in Yangqing, Yun Fuyu said, lifting the golden glasses on his nose bridge. He has had all the intersections entering and exiting Yangqing checked. People aged up to 80 and young people aged down to 30, regardless of gender. Shi Yanchen shook the long pole in his hand and hooked it straight, creating ripples on the lake surface. Have you checked the movements of the slums? The slums are too complex and haven't been thoroughly investigated yet. Yun Fuyu was taken aback for a moment and raised his eyebrows after thinking of something. It said that your fiancée A.E. also came from there. It said that she didn't go out for 2 days, and she was picked up by the Ning family early this morning. Are you really not curious? That old man from your family has given a death order. Why do you have to stay behind? Shi Yanchen still had no unnecessary expression. With a normal expression on his face, he said, Old man, never give up. Isn't Shi Mingxian still having many illegitimate children? Second and third uncles are still in their prime. Yun Fuyu said, Uncle Shi, this illegitimate son, thanks to what this master can say, and what kind of orthodox family is that 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom apartment? It was brought by the old man's second wife. Everyone in the Shi family knows that Shi Yanchen is the legitimate heir, so they all hold this crown prince in high regard. There are many legends about the crown prince at this time. He is cunning and indifferent, and is ruthless in handling things. Without any human touch, he is a heartless and unscrupulous master. My personality is still unpredictable. Both black and white are well known to everyone, and they dare not offend this master. But this is the person that people fear. However, on the elevated road of the tofu residue project, a sudden rupture caused a car accident, and after being rescued from the brink of death, both leg tissues died and became permanently disabled. A man with a proud and delicate heart also becomes more gloomy, dull, and unpredictable. Early in the morning, after finishing washing up, Su Mianmian touched her hungry stomach and lazily asked the maid, "Mrs. Song, do you have anything to eat?" The girl's dress is almost the same as yesterday's, but it looks exactly the same to others. Song's sister in-law glanced at Su Mianmian, who was dressed in cheap street goods, and pretended to be surprised, saying, "Oh, look at my memory. I only focused on preparing Miss Yao Yao's bird's nest and forgot about having an extra big living person at home. Why don't you take this first? It's also made of clean ingredients," said Sister Song, pointing to the cool big boned congee on the low table beside. Su Mianmian looked in the direction of Sister Song's finger and was about to say that porridge would be fine. Sister Song smiled and said, "This congee is clean and has taken a lot of effort to cook. If Miss Su is hungry, she can eat it first." After a pause, he said with a hint of heartache, "It's the pet dog that Miss keeps. It's sick and will have to wait a long time before we can have something to eat." The meaning behind the words is self-evident. People are not as good as dogs. Su Mianmian sneered coldly and took a few steps forward to reach out and hook her hand. The whole pot of congee was tossed up and scattered all over the floor. In order not to be scalded by hot congee, Sister Song retreated and accidentally knocked over the nearly cooked bird's nest. The back of the hand was instantly scalded red. "Ah!" Sister Song took a puff of her hand and dropped the newly sorted things on the table. The broken pieces stuck to congee and congee. "It's done so badly." Song's sister in-law's head was in a daze. She held on to her hot red hand and pointed at Su Mianmian, "You're amazing, okay, you." Su Mianmian glanced askance at the people outside the kitchen who smelled it. "Sister Song, what's wrong with me? You want me to eat this congee, but it's really too hot. I can't hold it." His cold eyes were fixed on Mrs. Song, who had a face full of resentment. "Mrs. Song is really brave. Yeah, even though Miss Su has just returned, she's still the owner. Let Miss Su eat dog food, that's malicious." The servants were deeply saddened. Mrs. Song looked at the other servants outside the door, her eyes blazing with flames. But there was nowhere else to go, and looking back at the scattered bird's nest, I muttered to myself that it was not good. Even if you don't care about congee, you should go forward and catch Su Mianmian. Otherwise, Madam will blame me. The expensive things added to this bird's nest are worth almost a month's salary. Of course. As she was about to catch Su Mianmian, her feet slipped. Chapter 6 is very evil. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ah. A thin and sharp sound came again. It's just that this one is even more tragic than the previous one. Sister Song knelt on the ground with her feet in confusion, kneeling on the muddy thick congee, and her hands were also propped up on the broken bowl. If she hadn't been propped up in time, she might have landed on her face. The servants outside the kitchen watched this scene helplessly. Su Mianmian's eyes were tinged with a hint of coldness, but her mouth was surprised and she said, "Ah, Sister Song, why do you need to show great respect?" The servants lowered their heads and made way when they saw Su Mianmian walking towards them. Mrs. Song was completely stunned. Even the person in front of me doesn't know if they have left. The Ning family is still surrounded by journalist paparazzi. Seeing the girl I saw yesterday coming out of the gate, a swarm of bees rushed forward. The microphone in hand kept thrusting towards the girl. Excuse me, are you and Ning Yao Yao really twins? What are the hidden secrets behind this? I heard that you robbed the marriage between the Ning family and the emperor's family. May I ask if you feel at ease about robbing your fiancée? May I ask what your thoughts were on when you were about to marry into the family? What qualifications do you think you have to be the young grandmother of the Shur family? May I ask if Ning's focus in the entertainment industry is on cultivating you or Ning Yao Yao? Will the resources within the industry be shared? Do you think you look better than Ning Yao Yao? But why is capital causing trouble and suffering from a lack of good acting? One problem after another should be overwhelming. But the girl standing upright on the steps of the Ning family gate, without anyone to protect her, is like a queen. Standing tall and looking down at everyone, the slow spring breeze blew the hair under my hat. On Su Mianmian's fair little face, her expression was as faint as this. Yesterday, I didn't pay attention to what I looked like because my small face was gray. If it weren't for the clothes that were similar to yesterday. They really can't recognize this, the delicate doll-like girl. Surprisingly, it's Su Mianmian. A beautiful flawless face with fair protein and a flawless texture that can be blown open, elastic, and smooth. A face without makeup is indescribable in beauty. A bare face can still withstand such attacks. Going into the entertainment industry is indeed a good way out. Unfortunately, without any acting skills, how long will it take to become popular just by being beautiful? Otherwise, it wouldn't have been so many years now. It's still lukewarm and stable to station on the 18th line. Su Mianmian faced sharp questions one by one. What does marriage have to do with me? I raised my cold lips slightly. Her bright eyes are full of sparkling light, and there is a sense of nobility inherent in her bones. Slowly step down the steps and head towards the reporters. However, the originally crowded crowd around also involuntarily opened up a path. Su Mianmian walked through the crowd and slowly turned her cold gaze towards the camera. Curl your lips at the female journalist who thinks she looks good. Don't be blind. You have vision. You have a future. Female journalist Jian Shuang was taken aback. Gripping the microphone in my hand, I wanted to ask something more. But I saw the girl's back already walking away. The people around, apart from the assistant who followed the camera, all left the gate of the Ning family. Because they discovered more valuable materials. Sister, should we go take photos? Meng Ku, carrying the camera, asked in a voice. Jian Shuang regained his composure and smiled faintly. No need, show me how you did with your photos. Hey, this foundation is really enviable. Jian Shuang exclaimed in surprise and looked up at Meng Ku, saying, I'll make a plate for Su Mianmian later. I keep it every time I take a picture. TSK, this beauty is simply God's favoritism. Jian Shuang held the thing in her hand and was overjoyed. A slum. In the illegally built bungalows, garbage and dirt can be seen everywhere, and on the walls without a visible background, there are vulgar graffiti. In the crowded alleyway, there are clothes hanging casually, running through the wires between bungalows. A sour smell spread everywhere. It's not surprising that the walls are cracked and the roof is hollowed out. Mian has come back. Why, can't you get used to living in a big house? It's not like I made a mistake and got kicked back, is it? Sigh, just say less daydreaming. Let's just say, no such fate. Su Mianmian ignored the strange words around her. Heading towards the destination in 7 twists and turns. The people around were all a group of snobbish eyes. Seeing Su Mianmian, who had not changed much throughout her body, she thought she had really become some kind of wealthy lady. With a hint of disdain, I didn't expect to see this girl for several years. She looks so agile. But what's the use of this beautiful light? This wealthy man, where can he be looked up to, must not be seen. As he grew up to be poor again, he recognized him and sent him away. Ah, have you heard about it? The Su family is so smooth. As soon as they arrive at the Ning family, they act like bandits entering the village and snatch her sister's marriage. Yes, yes, I also heard my girls say. If you want me to say it, this looks good, it's just moral corruption. That man, maybe he's just mesmerized. This little fox seductive is the best at flirting with men. TSK, that kind of Yao is really pitiful. A bunch of idle women gathered around the wall, talking right and wrong. Pointing and nodding at the disappearing figure. Xuanxue frowned slightly and walked out from the corner. A probe smiled at several women. Sisters, who is that girl? A few broken-mouthed women were startled and choked. Oh, so it's Xuanxue. That's the person from the household in Southeast Alley. There's no one there for a long time, that's just a girl, said one person. Xuanxue quietly took out a large stack of red tickets and said, tell me. A few women's eyes suddenly lit up, staring straight at the large banknote in Xuanxue's hand. For over half a month, many people have been wandering around here. They don't quite believe it when they say they want to census the population here, as the government intends to expropriate it. The government wants to collect it, it has already collected it, but they can't afford the price and want their house. Although it is a broken point, there is still a land deed. Guess which developer you are interested in. This young man is much more pleasing to the eye than those few people. He has a sweet mouth and can still get involved. Look at this big move. They have scraped a lot with him these days. Anyway, what he asked were all irrelevant matters. They were happy to tell this sweet-talking young man that there was money to take. Auntie, let me tell you, don't be fooled by this girl's good-looking appearance. Her destiny is hard to tell you, not just because her parents died early. Xuanxue's eyes sank slightly and he said, what do you say? This doll is so ghostly. Mrs. Lin lowered her voice and pointed to her own head. There's a big problem here, not to mention her. After having this girl, her mother became pregnant but didn't get any. There's also one who looks like she's about to give birth. Well, she's having a stillbirth. Oh my, I know about this too. It was said that she died for her, Aunt Wang recalled and quickly interjected, that stillbirth seems to be 8 months old. I don't know why it's gone. Mrs. Lin said again, also, she set fire to people at a young age. She's not afraid of anything at all. She's really crazy. That's right, this girl is really evil. Sometimes she's very demonic, and sometimes she's just stunned. That's right, it's very evil. It seems like someone said that when this child was 2 or 3 years old, an old man said she had lost her soul. She wanted to call her soul back. Don't mention it, it seems that the contrast was even reduced later on. But didn't the Cui Xiu family say that Lao Su said it was a scam? How could he be willing to say that he is his daughter? He must be hiding it from us to know. Aunt Lin pouted at the speaker. Otherwise, you can tell me why this girl is so strange. Cui Xiu, I can't say she has anything to do with Lao Su. Otherwise, why did she help them so much? That should be true. It seems like the old man said he's soulless. But Cui Xiu and Lao Su. It's impossible, isn't it? It's impossible, she's just a widow, Lin said with a look that you don't understand. Don't talk nonsense, this old Su has been away for many years. No, that's all for this news. That's not worth much. Xuanxue shook his red ticket with a thud as he saw the conversation getting further apart. It seems like I don't have anywhere to go today. There are some things, how could there be none? There's a lot that Auntie hasn't said yet. However, you have to listen to Auntie and don't take a liking to this girl anymore. Chapter 7. Buying is making money. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Xuanxue listened to the chatter of several people and couldn't help but darken his gaze as he looked into the distance. A faint red light flickered faintly in the inner pocket of the top. Record all the words of a few people. Suddenly, a displeased female voice sounded, "You are just jealous of Sister Mian Mian." "Mrs. Lin, who's jealous? She's just a lunatic. Who would be jealous of her? Don't talk nonsense about the daughter of the Xuanxue family." Aunt Wang looked at this girl who looked down on her son again. With a sneer, "I thought it was someone. It wasn't because they moved out of the house. What did they come back for? Do you mind if I come back or not? I can't go back to my house yet." Wang Suya wrapped her hands around her chest, with a fierce expression, looking at several broken-mouthed women. Mrs. Lin let out a sigh of anger and drew at the ticket in Ching-Che's hand. "I've said everything I know, this." Ching-Che looked at Wang Suya not far away and casually grabbed a few to give to a few people. "Turn around." With a smile on his face, he looked at Wang Suya and said, "This sister, do you know?" Wang Suya raised her hand. "Stop it, although I'm short of money, I'm not bad. Mian Mian is not as bad as they say. These broken-mouthed women are the best at adding oil and vinegar." Ching-Che was about to say something, but was interrupted by a woman's voice. You're back. Are you hungry? Mom will cook you some noodles and add a nest of eggs." A woman who had gone through many hardships walked over, wiping her apron with her hands. "Mom, don't bother, there will be work later. I have to get it. I finally came back and you're not forgiving me anymore." Later, Aunt Wang and the others said something about you for some reason. "I just can't stand them talking about Mian Mian Jie." Wang Suya pursed her lips slightly. "Mian Mian Jie is so good." Wang Suya took her mother's arm and said, "Mom, why don't you move out with me? If you stay here, you won't be disturbed. Let them chew their tongues." "Mom won't leave." Wang Suishio's weathered face was tinged with sorrow. "If she's not here, if Mian Mian comes back, there won't be any place to go. Yesterday she saw the person who came to pick it up. That person with a dark face, I don't know if Mian Mian will be wronged." "Okay. You know, let's go together when Sister Mian comes back." Mian Mian has come back, but after staying for 2 days, I knocked on the door for 2 days, but no one answered. "I don't know if it's true," he said as he looked around and whispered, "I'm sick again. Miss Mian has returned, where is she?" Wang Suya couldn't help but quicken her pace. "I picked it up for the Ning family yesterday, which is the Ning family with a big company. I heard that Mian is the eldest daughter of that family." Wang Suya's eyes lit up. "Ning family? Can't it be the Ning Yao Yao family? What other little gossip did she hear at work today? Mian Mian is not the twin sister, is she?" Ching-Che looked at the mother and daughter walking away and only vaguely heard a few words. "I couldn't help but feel lost in thought. It seems that those women all came casually, but they are indeed the scouts of this land. Whether or not everyone has meat to eat today cannot escape their attention. Not to mention the recent arrivals. As for this sister Law, she seems to have a lot of secrets. He needs to quickly tell Yen Gu to go." Little did they know that his inkstone brother had already met someone. "Yen Gu, that day our people followed here and disappeared." Shao Bai held the tablet with one hand and tapped on it with the other. "I know how to choose a place." Shi Yanchen raised his eyebrows and scanned the surroundings. Shao Bai's gaze shifted away from the screen and he muttered softly, "Isn't that right? The satellites in this area haven't covered it yet." Seeing Su Mianmian take 2 more turns and arrive home, she paused in her footsteps. Twisted his eyebrows and looked at the blocked horizontal bar. "Although all roads here are open, this road is the closest. Just go straight and turn left, then take a few steps and turn right to get there. Why take a long detour?" "So." Su Mianmian ignored the banner and lifted her foot over it. Suddenly, 2 bodyguards raised their hands and blocked the way. "What are you doing? We can't go this way, go around elsewhere. Hu Mingqing heard the sound and looked up, muttering, "Oh, isn't this my little aunt? The sound is not loud. But Su Mianmian has good ear strength. Raise your eyebrows and eyes slightly, you must be careful. If the marriage is successful, you will be a great nephew for nothing." Su Mianmian looked at the beautiful man next to the boy. That face can be described as a masterpiece, so handsome and extraordinary that it can be said to be a mix of human and divine anger, with a noble and aloof temperament and a seductive charm. Unfortunately, such a beautiful woman was bewitched by someone. According to the young man's tone, this should be her cheap fiancé. Don't look bad. Su Mianmian slightly narrowed her gaze and blinked, pointing to the bungalow behind her. "But, my house is here. The girl is not bad in stature and is quite tall. Her face is also really beautiful, like an elf who accidentally fell into the mortal world, giving people a fresh and refined feeling overall, but without any hint of coquettishness." Hu Mingqing whispered to the person beside him, "Uncle, I'll go and say hello to my future aunt." Shi Yanchen didn't pay any attention to the noisy Hu Mingqing. "It's okay, it's my own person," Hu Mingqing chuckled as he looked at Su Mianmian. "My future aunt, your future nephew." The two bodyguards exchanged a glance. Before he could make a sound, he was interrupted by young Master Hu behind him. But Yan Yi didn't say anything. They still dare not let anyone go. Su Mianmian. Looking at the young man patting his chest, the corners of his mouth twitched slightly. He was a good second-year young man. Yun Fuyu said. "Hua Shao. What a shame. This eyeball is about to fall off. Have you never seen a beauty before? Although this appearance is indeed not bad." Yun Fuyu turned his head to look at Shi Yanchen on the wheelchair. Whispered, "Blessed." But the man in the wheelchair remained indifferent. His pale face was full of pathos, and his expression was so dull that it was hard to understand what he was thinking. Hu Mingqing looked back awkwardly and winked at several others desperately. Shi Yanchen glanced at the person whose eyes were about to twitch and said calmly, "Let Miss Su pass by." After Shi Yan's voice sank, the two bodyguards finally let go. Hu Mingqing made a face at the bodyguard who didn't follow his command. "Follow Su Mianmian's footsteps with a bumpy pace." Shi Yan raised his eyebrows with a slightly darkened expression, watching Su Mianmian's slow and unpleasant steps. Until the girl stopped in her tracks. "Miss Su, what's up?" The faint tone, as if lacking in strength, was a bit too weak. Su Mianmian clicked a few times and staggered a few people away. Suddenly, with a light and agile gaze, he slowly turned back to look at Shi Yanchen, who was weak. "You said, young Master Shi, you have a short-lived appearance. I'm afraid you'll soon have to step on the clouds and head west." A few people's faces changed. Yun Fuyu said, "Nonsense." Su Mianmian ignored a few unfriendly gazes. Looking straight at the man in the wheelchair, "It's okay, walk more, detoxify better, and you won't die too fast." Shi Yanchen squinted his phoenix eyes slightly and covered the blanket on his feet, making the red mole at the corner of his eye even more tempting. "Miss Su, I'll borrow your auspicious words," said the cold lips lightly. Su Mianmian choked up and moved her crossbody bag forward, then reached inside and searched aimlessly. Pulling out a paper bag, he calmly opened it and broke half of one of the pieces with a stingy attitude. The display said, "Half a life. Saving elixir, affordable price, not 90.8, only 60.6 thousand. Do you want it or not? If you can't buy it, you won't lose out. If you can't buy it, you won't fall for it. If you buy it, you'll make a profit." A few people's faces turned dark and said, Chapter 8. News. There's news. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Even Hu Mingqing, who has always had a dull mind, felt that Su Mianmian was a fraud. This is just a small sugar pill. Sorry to say, it's not 9 or 8, it's only 6 or 6,000. Give her 1.66 cents is already too much. What a lion opening its mouth, treating them as unjust leaders. It's impossible for her to fall for the trap of seeking medical attention in case of an urgent illness. Miss Su, this business is not done like this, Yun Fuyu sneered as he supported the golden frame. What should we do then? I'm not selling it forcefully. Do you like it or not? Su Mianmian muttered to herself, if you can't afford it, just say. Yun Fuyu indeed, there was no forced sale, just, Miss Su, are you sure you'll save your life? Shi Yanchen suddenly spoke. Yen Gu. Several people were surprised. Shi Yanchen raised his slender fingers slightly on the blanket. Yun Fuyu frowned and stopped speaking. Su Mianmian pinched the small thing in her hand and said, we are honest, young and old. We have a small business. Shao Bai. It's all on W, sorry for the small business. I'm afraid this heart is black. Hu Mingcheng. It seems that these old men have nothing to do with the young and old people. Are you sure you're not lying? This future little ant, how could she have a divine aura? Shi Yan lowered his eyebrows and eyes slightly, and his slender hand twitched. Give it to her. The little white man holding the tablet gave his forehead a thumbs up and gasped in frustration, Grandpa, even if you're rich. Shi Yanchen raised his eyebrows, didn't say much, and extended his palm towards Su Mianmian. Su Mianmian tilted her head and looked at the young man holding the tablet, while the other hand dug out one by one from her bag. How do I pay, insurance or WeChat card? The corners of their mouths twitched as they looked at the different payment codes on both sides. The preparations are quite complete. Paid. Xiao Bai helplessly scanned the WeChat Pay page and showed it to Su Mianmian. WeChat payment of 660,000 yuan has been received. Thank you for your patronage and we welcome you to come again next time. Shao Bai. Come on, fart. Yun Fuyu and a few others were wearing a black face, listening to the mechanical voice broadcast. A black line runs through my mind. There is an urge to use vulgar language, but this is what Yen Gu means. Su Mianmian listened to the sound inside her bag and satisfactorily placed the small item in Shi Yanchen's hand. Feeling excited. It's good to use it again, I'll give you a discount. Shi Yanchen looked at the half pill in his palm and said lightly, okay. Shao Bai and a few others helped each other's forehead, indicating that they were hopeless. This is still their inkstone brother, right? Can't anyone impersonate it? Su Mianmian couldn't help but remind the man, hurry up and eat, the effect is significant. It's not urgent. Upon seeing this, Su Mianmian stopped talking and turned around to leave. Shao Bai looked at Su Mianmian, who had disappeared without a trace, and couldn't help but say, Sir, you wouldn't be interested in seeing her. It's not impossible, Yun Fuyu said with a mischievous smile on his face, which was out of place with his refined demeanor. Yun Fuyu took out a medical bag and took half of the pill from Shi Yanchen's hand. Looking sideways at Shi Yanchen, tell me, what do you see? You don't seem to be fooled. So Su Mianmian does have two talents. Surprisingly, she showed no timidity at all. Should we say she was a social bully or something, but it doesn't match what was found. Shi Yanchen took the medical bag and looked at the half object. Interesting. Yun Fuyu was about to ask something interesting when he was interrupted by Cheng Che, who came running over. Cheng Che ran over with excitement and said, There's news, there's news. Everyone's expressions tightened and they all looked at him, but Cheng Che gasped for breath and said, This sister.in.law. Seems to be mistaken for rumors. Everyone. I thought I had asked him about the news of the miraculous doctor and ghost hand. Su Mianmian walked outside the Su family door. Looking up, the hand holding the doorknob twisted 3 times to the left and then 3 times to the right before gently pushing open the door. A pitch-black cellar entrance is exposed inside the door. This is a small cellar that almost everyone has, but the Su family's cellar is slightly different. Speaking of which, we have to start with Grandpa Su of the Su family. It is said that he was a prominent figure at that time, but due to the fact that this great person did not live long. In this slum, I'm afraid not many people remember or know about it. In the era of war, Grandpa Su learned a lot of mechanical skills in ear and eye rendering. This research institute was discovered and utilized by Grandpa Su during the war. However, few people know about it. After all, there are many mechanisms and hidden doors to enter here, and even a slight mistake can bypass them. Su Mianmian walked about 10 meters deep, covered her hand on the wall, and scanned through a rainbow hole before entering a room. Many top-notch high-tech equipment can be seen, and on the other side, there are also many bottles and jars arranged in various sizes. Su Mianmian glanced at the open secret door and walked forward, reaching out and pulling it open. Bang! A gunshot rang out in the secluded space. Then a melodious yet eerie song rang out. Cheers, cheers. Cheers. Welcome, come and welcome you, let's witness this miracle together. Sure enough, Master is still so inconsistent in his work. You're sliding very well. Undoubtedly, Master Lao Lu. Su Mianmian looked at the standing screen and scanned the flashing words on it, her forehead bulging uncontrollably. Good disciple, my destiny has been changed. No need to thank you, no need to thank you. Remember to transfer the money to my new account, 9876666666666. Although your destiny has been greatly changed, your destiny is not many. Only by getting married can you continue your life. Don't believe it, please take a look. There is a short-lived ghost in the Shure family that best matches your current soul body. Why not give it a try? You're not at a disadvantage. I've explored it for you, and your appearance is definitely impressive. Hee, you can figure it out on your own, don't lose, don't lose. When he kicks, you can make a steady profit without losing. Su Mianmian closed her eyes and took a deep breath, slowly suppressing the thin anger in her heart. I dare say she has fallen into this big pit of Master Lu. Master, you are such a good person. Facing the screen is like a thumbs up. Then, he pinched his fingers and calculated his own destiny, but it was still like a mist. Since the age of 3, her personality has become polarized, with one being extremely solitary and the other being exceptionally intelligent. Not only do the foster parents know this, but the neighbors also see it to some extent. It's all thanks to a half-hearted scammer. When Su Mianmian was 1.5 years old, a river and lake fraudster held a flag with the words, Ask Jacket, and spent 3 days outside Su's house, insisting on catching Su Mianmian's father and claiming that there was a ghost on her body. What would make Su Mianmian lose her soul after a long time? She needs to be stopped, otherwise something big will happen. It's free, no charge, anyway it's just a good prank. Su's father always points and avoids Su Mianmian in order to prevent his neighbors from doing so. So he agreed, but to his surprise, this scammer was not skilled enough. If he didn't accomplish anything, he wouldn't say anything and even drove Su Mianmian crazy, biting people whenever they saw him. It's even more frightening. Subsequently, the fraudster also said with a panicked expression that he could only pay for disaster relief. And the scammer who stopped her soul said he wanted to take 6,006. Su's father looked at his uncontrollable daughter and had to grit his teeth and take out half a year's living expenses. This is just amazing. As soon as the money was given, the scammer kept nagging, this crazy little girl was so good. And they don't know, it's actually very dangerous. Su Mianmian's destiny has evil energy, and this thing attached to her body is to avoid the evil energy. Unexpectedly, this prodigy, who only knows superficial ways, was left behind in a daze. After less than 2 years, Su Mianmian's personality became polarized. Afterwards, the Su family also experienced many incidents one after another. At that time, she had a soul-possessed appearance on her body, and her master said it was still the method that Grandpa Su asked him to do. Did Grandpa Su see the issue with her destiny, or Su Mianmian looked at the things left by her master on the screen? If in thought. Don't be swayed by others in Chapter 9. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Does it mean that her personality will not be so changeable in the future? She doesn't want to live those days without freedom anymore. That place, it's really great to be able to leave. In the first 20 years, Su Mianmian's soul was divided into 3 parts on 2 bodies. Due to the uncertainty of the yin and yang of the main and auxiliary souls, there is always a soul that will detach for a moment. The state of causing one soul to move on both sides. 2 days ago, her soul was still on 2 separate bodies, one on this body and the other in the dark dungeon. With the help of her master's soul control, her soul circulated for many years and finally merged into one. All reborn on Su Mianmian. That's why she was unconscious for 2 days. However, this incredible thing carries an unknown hidden danger. Once the gears of fate are tampered with, they will inevitably bring about many changes. And this first change is: she must marry the short-lived young master of the Shur family. Otherwise, she will also have a short life. It seems that we can only make use of that good-looking man. After all, saving one's life is the most important thing. Su Mianmian closed the flickering screen and walked to the front of the stage, holding a jar containing a mysterious creature, carefully pounding the drum. Then, he walked over to the computer and sat down. His fair and slender fingers tapped on the keyboard, and a complex picture and text appeared on the screen. The swaying picture, upon closer inspection, gives off a feeling of dizziness. Suddenly, the phone flashes. Su Mianmian looked at the information displayed above. Someone has invaded. Su Mianmian quickly paused the input code, turned around and walked out of the room. At the exit, she twisted the switch and a wall rose. The entire laboratory was buried underground. This is a laboratory, although it already exists. However, it was still Su Mianmian who underwent small-scale rectification through learning in the dungeon, combined with the 8 trigrams formation received by her master, and the mechanism books left by Grandpa Su. So, there is no more than one hand who knows this place, and among them, Su Mianmian is the only one who knows every inch of the mechanism. Su Mianmian's pace quickened a bit. After all, Su's family couldn't conceal too many things. Otherwise, it will be exposed. This secret passage is still a wartime secret passage left over from the previous war period, mysterious and well connected. After Grandpa Su's transformation in his youth, the Su family's cellar and secret passage were secretly connected, which became Su Mianmian's secret destination when she was a child. Coincidentally, there are several exits under the foundation where the Su family is located, not just connecting to the cellar, but also one under Su's father's room. Su Mianmian gently opened the secret door above her head and appeared in Su's father's room before his death. Outside the door. "Hey, isn't Sister Mian back?" Wang Suya looked around and muttered, perhaps Grandma Lin was mistaken, but Grandma Lin has such good eyes. She's not getting old, she's really seeing things. I couldn't help but increase my voice and say, "Mian Mian, have you come back?" Su Mianmian looked through the crack in the door and saw the figure outside. "I don't plan to show up, after all, this girl is really annoying." Unexpectedly, there was nothing to be afraid of, and the sound of the phone rang out urgently from the bag. Su Mianmian looked at the number above and without hesitation, she simply pressed the hang-up button. Ning Jiayang. It's not a good thing for him to find himself. He should be talking about Sister Song. Ning family. Ning Jiayang looked at Sister Song, who was wrapped with hands like Zongzi, one lame and the other lame. Angry and wanting to drop the phone in his hand, he dared not answer his own phone. Su Mianmian, it's best not to come back, he gritted his teeth and said, I really think of myself as something. Surprisingly, I dare to knock over the bird's nest that Yao Yao ate, and the one raised in a dirty manner is not a good thing. Ning Yao Yao looked at Sister Song's injury with a sorrowful expression on her face and said, "Brother, it's okay if I don't eat this meal. It's just pity for Sister Song. Sigh, everyone blames me. If I don't take this bite, I'll be fine. I can't tell anything about the color difference on this surface, it's just that it's not as strict in the initial test," he said, slightly lowering his head. Ning Jiayang's anger grew even stronger as he looked at his sister who was still taking responsibility on him. Song Linmin remained silent, just comforting and caressing Ning Yao Yao's back. Ning Yao Yao gritted her teeth in secret, and a hint of unexplored anomaly flashed in her eyes. Why is Mom not angry at all? It shouldn't be. Madame Song, seeing the situation, was wailing on the side and apologizing for Ning Yao Yao's injustice. "Madam, young master, Miss Su knew that Miss Yao Yao was going to interview today, so she took the initiative to knock over her beauty bird's nest." After taking a breath, he continued, "You even knocked over Shao Fu's food. It's evident how malicious this thought is. Madam, you have to make up your own mind. Otherwise, Miss Su will have to turn the tables from now on." Upon hearing the sound, Ning Yao Yao interrupted and said, "Sister Song, don't say that. Sister must." "All right." Song Linmin, who was sitting beside him, helped his swollen temple. "Sister Song, just let this happen. Hurry up and have someone stew another gu, there's still time. Also, there's something to do, just watch and do it. Otherwise, if it's spread out, we'll just pretend that our Ning family doesn't provide people with food. Mrs. Song, do you think so? Song Sa has worked for many years in the Ning family. How could Song Linmin not know what kind of person she is? She heard what the new Xiaohong had said before she even went downstairs. However, I didn't expect it. Surprisingly, Mrs. Song is not a match for Su Mianmian. TSK if Haolong finds out, it is uncertain that Sister Song will be dismissed. Where did you find such a satisfactory servant then? That's all for now. It's just that there shouldn't be any ulterior motives, otherwise Mrs. Song is also a shrewd person, and she can hear the implied meaning of her wife. Ah, this matter. Blame me, madam. I am also at the moment. Miss Yao Yao, I will stew it for you now. Ning Yao Yao hurriedly said, "No need, Sister Song." Song Linmin had a headache, but he didn't expect that Su Mianmian was still a tough guy. "It seems like we need to change our plans. Thank you for your hard work, Sister Song. I see that you have been injured quite badly. Let me give you a paid rest for a while. Don't forget about it in the future. Also, Mian, this child is indeed." Mrs. Song nodded gratefully as she listened to Mrs. Ning's words and left the restaurant. Song Linmin saw that his son was still angry. "Jiayang, come and sit down, listen to Mom." He waved involuntarily. Ning Jiayang had a gloomy expression on his face, not knowing what his parents were thinking. He had to think about some kind of blood relationship. She's already an adult, what else does she bring back for? Su Mianmian should have her own life. If she is beautiful and kind-hearted, he doesn't have any big objections. The Ning family is not incapable of supporting a single person. The slums are just slums, the problem is that she is not a good person. Especially when he saw that day, she picked up a half-year-old child and was about to punch her. The child's face was covered in scars, and she was still doing this. She didn't know if she had caused the injuries all over her body. "Mom, is that all for now? Can't we just let Su Mianmian do whatever she wants out of guilt or something?" Out of guilt, Yao Yao was asked to give up that good marriage to her. But she may not necessarily appreciate it. "Jiayang, Mom never said that people who want to do big things should not be impatient." Song Linmin smiled softly, let alone be swayed by others' thoughts. Song's sister Law sang this song, so let this matter be. Looking back, seeing that Ning Haolong had not yet returned from Mr. Ning, he said again, not long after, Su Mianmian's nature will be exposed. Even if it's on Mr. Ning's side, it's hard for your father to say, isn't it? Ning Jiayang nodded thoughtfully upon hearing the sound. Recently, Uncle Air's family has attracted Grandpa's attention the most. If this matter gets caught up with Grandpa, it's possible that they will have another advantage. Ning Yao Yao lowered her eyes, and no one noticed the sinister aura beneath her gentle gaze. Su Mianmian, let you escape once, it won't be as good next time. Chapter 10. You arrange. You are listening at novelfull.audio. On the other end. Su Mianmian looked helplessly at the pushed-open door. Her expression remained as faint as ever, but there was still a hint of softness in the corner of her eyes. Su Mianmian looked at the girl who was less than a year younger than herself. You said, long time no see. Okay, Mian, I've been calling out here for so long. It's okay if you don't come out, but you still won't make a sound. Wang Suya curled her lips and looked at Su Mianmian with a gloomy expression. Mian, it's been so long since we last met. Why are you still so beautiful? As soon as the small emotions on his face subsided, he quickly stepped forward and hugged Su Mianmian's arm, then lifted his head up. Mian, don't you even want me? Su Mianmian gave a faint smile and only said, no. Words can be considered as a response to Wang Suya's incessant mouth. You said no, you calculate, how long haven't we seen each other? 3 years, 3 years. Su Mianmian gently and slowly pulled out her hand and said softly, 2.5 years. Last time I saw you, it was really an accident. However, seeing Wang Suya now also reminds her of what her other body is going to be like now. Master Lao Lu doesn't know how to handle it either. I hope it won't be too miserable. Little did they know after all, he is the 6th master, so he must be worthy of this name. Mian, you stood me up last time, remember? I don't care, you have to make up for me. Wang Suya's eyes turned and her face was instantly filled with grievances. Su Mianmian's eyes flickered slightly, as if there was something like that. She can't remember clearly. After all, based on the situation at that time, it was certain that one could do whatever it took to fool people away first. Who knew that Suya still remembers? Isn't it just shopping? Anyway, it's not a big deal right now. So Su Mianmian tilted her head and said, you can arrange the afternoon time. But Wang Suya was about to say something when she didn't have time this afternoon, so she quickly stopped talking. Looking at Su Mianmian at this moment, her bright eyes couldn't help but flash a hint of plan. He smiled and said, Mianmian, do you really listen to my arrangements? Su Mianmian looked at her and felt a bit uneasy. Can I refuse? No, Wang Suya shook her index finger left and right and put it in an on position. Mian, if you say something, you can't help but do the math. Wang Suya paused and said, you taught me. Okay. Just manage the food. Su Mianmian touched her belly with a hungry expression on her face. Wang Suya frowned upon hearing this, but Ning Jiajia didn't care about Mian. Are you just starving her like this? How can that be done? Although Mian has a strong appetite, as long as she has something to eat, she will never be hungry. Go to my yard, my mom ordered noodles, just right. Asterisk Wang family. Su Mianmian buried her head and showed off one bowl after another. Mian, where have you been all these years? Wang Xuanxue looked at her body, still a skinny girl like before, and couldn't help but sob. So many years, how have you been? Wang Xuanxue looked at Su Mianmian with a heart-wrenching expression. Wang Suya held her mother and comforted her by smoothing her spine. She never said that she met Mian Jie 2 or 3 years ago. Because she always thought it was because she had been overthinking after drinking too much, otherwise why wouldn't she be able to wait for someone the next day? Just saying that was also a test. I didn't expect it to be true. But why didn't Mian come the next day? Is there any hidden information? Su Mianmian looked up and saw the two mother and daughter with foggy eyes. She suddenly felt a strange and warm feeling in her heart. Aunt Shao, I'm doing well. I followed a teacher from the mountain and learned a craft. I can earn a lot by going down the mountain. Su Mianmian smiled. The mother and daughter of the Wang family couldn't help but blink their eyes as they looked at Su Mianmian's smile. Wang Suya put the eggs from the bowl into Su Mianmian's bowl and said, Mianmian, you eat. Mian, although Shui doesn't have many delicacies, she won't be hungry for you. There's still something to eat slowly in the pot, don't choke. She knew she had a big appetite, so she cooked quite a bit. Well, Aunt Xiu's cooking is much more delicious than the delicacies of mountains and seas. It's been a long time since I ate Aunt Xiu's cooking, I miss it so much. This little mouth is still as sweet as before, Wang Zuexiu said with a feigned complaint, warmed up by Su Mianmian's words. It's so elegant. This little mouth is so picky, I always want to eat something fancy. Wang Suya shrugged, as if agreeing to her mother's words. Mom is indeed right. In the past, she always longed for things outside. In order for her to go to school without much pressure, her mother always changes ways and makes various delicious foods. She also lived up to her mother's expectations. Although her family was not as superior as others, Wang Suya still achieved good grades through her own efforts. Jump one level each in middle and high school, and finally get admitted to a satisfactory university. This year happens to be a year of internship, as long as you do well and graduate, you can officially enter the workforce. She will pick up her mother and live a good life, no longer living in this corner. Su Mianmian glanced at Wang Suya, her phoenix eyes fixed lightly, and she took out something from her bag. Take this with you. Thank you, Mianmian sister. What is this? Wang Suya looked at the yellow triangle and inexplicably took it. Little thing, keep it safe. Wang Suya was taken aback and said, Mian, do you still believe in this? I'll keep it for you, if I don't eat it anymore, it'll be cold. Wang Zuexiu patted her daughter's hand and gestured for her to speak less. Mian gave her this thing, although she didn't know what it was, it wouldn't be any bad thing. This child has always been a girl with ideas. I just didn't expect it to be a child of the Su family. Mian, Aunt Xiu will always be your home. If. Looking at Mian's expression, she paused and said, if you don't have a good time at the Ning family, come to Aunt Xiu. Although Aunt Xiu is a bit shabby, Aunt Xiu will never starve you. They, who were lonely and helpless, had received a lot of care from the Su family, but she did not have the opportunity to repay them. Now that she finally knows that Mian is still there, she will cherish her as her own child. Looking at her face, it was considered beautiful, but her thin and weathered face. Su Mianmian nodded and said, okay. The matter of the true and false daughter of the Ning family has not only caused a stir in Yangcheng, but even the emperor has heard a lot of gossip. After all, the Ning family in Yangcheng and the Shi family in the imperial capital have a close relationship, and major media outlets are paying attention to it, especially the news about Su Mianmian, which has attracted much attention. The news has spread that Su Mianmian and Ning Yao Yao are twins, so the young fiancé AE should not change. But the difference in information is significant. Since Su Mianmian is the daughter of Ning's parents, in a first-come, last-served order, does that mean that the young fiancé AE really needs to be replaced? Ning Yao Yao is once again a newcomer and has successfully made it to the top 5 on the trending list.